Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about a thought experiment called Plato's allegory. So basically, a long time ago, during when Socrates and Plato were alive, there was a dialogue between Socrates and Plato's brother, right? In which they wanted to talk about the five senses and their influences on how we perceive our everyday world. So imagine this, right? Long ago, there are three humans chained in a cave, right? And their faces towards the wall, and all they've ever seen is the wall throughout their entire life. There is a dimly lit fire behind them, and sometimes they see objects passing between them and the fire, and they see the shadows of these objects on the wall, right? They give names to these shadows, and they perceive this shadow as their true reality, right? Because they've never seen anything before. So one of these three prisoners ends up breaking free of the chain, right, that locked him to the top of the cave, and he goes out of the cave and finally experiences true reality. For a few days, he's not able to completely readjust to this new reality because for the entirety of his life, he's believed that the shadows at the cave of the wall are the true reality. So it takes him a month or so, but soon he accepts that the sun is the true light, the trees exist, the ground exists, and there's more than the shadows on the cave, right? So then what he tries to do is he goes back to his two prisoners in the cave and tries to explain to them that there's a reality outside of these shadows. But what the prisoners do is that they completely dismiss him and say that he's been disillusioned and that he's completely stupid because they don't know anything except the shadows, right? So what we are supposed to look at this story and what we're supposed to learn from it is that people, and in this analogy, these two prisoners, they are in a state of one could call ignorance, right? Because all they know is these shadows. They don't know anything apart from these shadows. So how can they be expected to acknowledge the existence of things other than the shadows that the third prisoner who's broken out has seen, right? Plato used the third prisoner to symbolize scientists and philosophers trying to encourage the public about the true reality, right? There's more than what you can just see. So this relates to how we can't trust our five senses. Now, what I think about this philosophical belief that truth doesn't really exist because everything that we perceive as true, right, relating to the thought experiment by Plato, everything that we see as true is perceived by our senses, right? So, for example, relativity, which was confirmed by the projection of a comet, right? We observe that with our eyes. We use mathematical equations, right? Not to say that I'm discrediting science, but more so to say that our observation, our touch, and our other feelings, we completely trust them and we believe that these feelings are truth, right? But what if they're not? What is there to say that our sense of touch, our sense of smell, all of this isn't a lie, right? So you guys must have seen the movie called The Matrix, right? In which the humans are they're secluded in chambers and there's actually a reality outside of this place, which is the true reality. Relating to the red pill blue pill, so I don't want to go into that. But the main thing that I'm trying to say is that in the Matrix, can we really trust our five senses if we were in the other side or in a simulation in general? So that is the food for thought, and that is why I think that truth doesn't really exist, not to discredit science, maths, or anything else.
I agree with your statement that we cannot state anything as objective truth because we cannot, in the end, trust our senses always in theory. So, but I believe that since every person is a subject to their own experience, one can state something as a subjective truth rather than objective truth. Subjective truth is dependent on personal experiences and things that you have noticed for yourself, right? So, and we know that subjective truth works at least to some extent because as we can see all around us, infrastructures, theorems, different laws about our reality have been drawn all from a relatively subjective truth. We can state, now this is up to debate, but many people who believe in religion, it's also based on relative subjective truth. We do not know for a fact whether religion is right or as in true or not, which is where I guess the contradiction between objective and subjective truth comes, because we cannot verify religion through objective truth on a scientific basis either, right? So I believe when it comes to talking about whether truth exists or not, subjective truth also plays a very important point. That because subjective truth has played a very important role in our development as a human race.
I believe that there's a difference between something being true and not being true given that we trust our senses, and something being false because our senses are not true, right? So given that our senses do tell us about the true reality, right, then obviously there's the debate of whether religion is true or not, right? But if our senses are real, then there's almost no debate that science is false. Like the mathematical equations that we formed, like they're based on complete ground observation, and we can predict the future. Like the trajectory of the comets, for example, like I mentioned, we can predict the trajectory of the, sorry, have I been saying trajectory? Trajectory of the comets through mathematical equations, right? We know that an electron can be at two different places, right? We know many things through science, and if our senses are true, then there is no denying science at all. Because if you deny it, then that's not being a skeptic. That's more of just denial or just ignorance of science, right? All of us are in 12th grade. We just reached 12th grade. We all have our fair share of like at least maths or science, right? We've all studied many theories, we all studied many mathematical equations, there is no denying them, right? Our theorems of limits cannot be false. I can prove to you every single theorem in mathematics, and it cannot be denied because I'm basing it off axioms. Now, the change or the problem comes when we think about the fact that our five senses can be lying to us. Not in the sense that they're conscious and lying to us, but in the sense that we cannot trust them because there is no ground empirical evidence that our five senses are not lying to us. In this case, neither can we trust science, nor can we trust religion. We cannot trust anything around us except the fact that we are conscious, right? There's only one guarantee in this world where our senses are lying to us, and that guarantee is that we are conscious and we can perceive the things around us, because that's just an undeniable truth. That is what I have to say about subjective reality. So, I would like to talk about another thought experiment which relates to the five senses, right? So, for example, let's say that our five senses are not real, right? So there is a theory that which it does not really depend on our five senses not being real, but it becomes more real when you think about it, right? So the theory is that when we die, our mind or our brain makes us live the exact same life that we just lived all over again for the entirety of our existence, right? So, for example, if I die at the age of 80, then my mind ceases to be, but my brain recreates the entirety of that reality with the memories that I have from scratch, and I get born again repeatedly for the entirety of existence. So, how does this relate to the five senses, you may ask?
Like you're living in memory.
You're living in the memory that your brain has already, like, they brought up the point, right? Like, what we remember at any moment is not exactly what is there in our mind at that moment. Like, we need some kind of stimulus to bring it on our, like,
I forgot the word for the. There is a mind, like the thing that we are actually thinking right now. What is it called in psychology? Like the mind which has the
ability to.
no, there's like a certain name for the mind that contains the information that we're currently thinking of right now.
Perception.
Subconscious, and it comes to the pre-conscious, I think. Pre-conscious to something of
things that you're experiencing currently.
Yeah, like the things that are in your mind right now.
That's the perceptual memory. It's
Yeah.
the collection of everything that you're currently feeling through every single one of your stimulus.
Right.
It's not exactly stored in your memory, but it's just a 1 second instance where you can feel everything.
So
in real time.
yeah, so it comes from our pre-conscious memory to another type of memory. I'll write the name of that memory in the comment section. But for now, let's get to the point, right? So we know that I'm not sure it's called perceptual memory. I'll write the name of that. Maybe it is. So let's get back to the main point. So the things that are not correctly on our perceptual memory, if that's what it's called, then that does not mean that it's not in our brain in general, right? It could still be in our brain, and that is why this story in essence could be true, right? That after we die, we replay our entirety of existence, because all of those memories could still be in our mind. It's just that they could not, they may not be right now, as he calls it, on the perceptual memory. They may be on the pre-conscious, the subconscious, maybe even the unconscious. But the main point is that this relates to the 5 senses, because in these other worlds, I guess you can call them, that get replayed in our mind, are our senses telling us the truth in those worlds, right? In the other memory worlds, are our senses truly showing us what is there? Because that world is created purely through memories, so in a way that is a simulation. So, what do you guys think about this?
It boils back down to the simulation theory. Maybe we are in our subconscious mind right now. Maybe we are dead. Maybe our brain is rotting in a coffin somewhere.